Washington State proposes a wealth tax basically on only 4 people. Yeah, let's see how this shakes out. So what happens if you create a tax that is based for all intents and purposes is 4 people? If some Washington State lawmakers had their way, we might soon find out. House Bill 1406 would impose a wealth tax exclusively on billionaires, accomplished by exempting the first $1 billion in household wealth. While most European countries have concluded that wealth taxes are economically harmful and counterproductive, 12 European countries imposed wealth tax in '96, but only 3 do today. Wonder why that is. Oh, because the globalist elite have got their way in that regard. The idea has drawn interest in several U.S. states, including California and New York, would be structured as a mark-to-market regime. That's not good. Mark-to-market is bad. And now Washington. Only about a dozen people would be liable for the Washington State wealth tax, an exceptionally small base. And 4 of them, Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates, Steve Ballmer, and Mackenzie Scott, would account for 97% of the revenue. What if they just leave? Only one of those 4 people, Bezos, has a day-to-day corporate role in the Washington State-based company and even spends much of his time in Northern Virginia. Flying back and forth, certainly on battery-powered airplanes that were set up via battery banks and solar PV? I don't think so. I think he's using fossil fuels, but man, he's against climate change. What if Bezos, Gates, Ballmer, or Scott, remember Mackenzie Scott is Jeff Bezos' old wife, uninterested in liquidating investments every year to pay a Washington State wealth tax, decide to make their primary tax elsewhere? They went to Nevada. This would not only foil the wealth tax, but would deprive the state of other revenues as well. Maybe. But at first glance, a 1% wealth tax might not seem that consequential, mainly because we are not used to thinking about taxes in terms of stocks, accumulated wealth, rather than flows, tax on labor. Particularly as designed in Washington, with a tax be primarily on financial investments, it makes sense to consider what a 1% wealth tax would look like, as essentially an income tax on investment income. All right, well, if we assume a 7% average annual rate of return on investment, a 1% wealth tax is the equivalent of a 15.3% tax on investment income. To understand this, imagine $1 billion in taxable wealth, which produces $70 million in investment income. The $1.07 billion end of the year wealth generates a wealth tax of 10.7, which is 15.3% of the investment gain. Unlike a capital gain tax, however, this tax applies every year, even if the individuals are losing money. If, for instance, someone has $1 billion in taxable wealth at the start of the year, but lost $100 million at the end of the year, but then gained $1 million in year 2, they'd be back to where they started with no net capital gains. But if they paid a wealth tax, they'd owe $20 million on 0 investment income. Let's see. Based on, okay, whatever. Take a recent study. Okay, we looked at PayPal. Okay. Taxing wealth consisting in part of an unrealized gains from publicly traded assets is relatively straightforward, since some portion of the shares can be sold in satisfaction of the tax liability. This, of course, would still have consequences from some wealthy investors who are trying to maintain a controlling interest in conflicting treatment of capital gains at the federal and state levels. But the private business assets, the tax can be much more consequential. Washington would avoid this problem, but perhaps because private business assets are not a major source of wealth for the state's billionaires, but still runs into the rest of the perils of wealth taxation. Okay, that doesn't I'm not all that convinced by his argument. Frankly, I would like to see, this is what I've said a million times a Sunday, and actually I somewhat approve of Sniffy Joe's plan, max out. I would like to see get rid of charitable deductions across the board. But max them out, say, look, you get a 15% max charitable deduction or something like that. I think Sniffy Joe's is 28. I think that's the way to go. I actually like that much, much better because we know old Mackenzie Scott is looking to give billions of dollars to left-wing causes. Look, a wealth tax in of itself, I don't care what European countries doing. Also, the tax foundations, we got to follow what Europe does. I don't care. I'm sorry. If Jeff Bezos and Bill Gates moves out of Washington, well, that sucks, but they still have no state income tax, mind you. They're not moving to California, I guarantee. But anyway, whatever, man. That's the nature of the beast. You know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, how much revenue do Bill Gates and Jeff Bezos actually bring to the state of Washington if they're not paying a state income tax, all right, they pay property tax, I grant you, but Bill Gates and Jeff Bezos aren't that dumb. Now, Mackenzie Bezos, whatever the hell her name is, look, man, who knows? But at the end of the day, I have no qualm at all with rich lefties have to pay a little bit more tax before they fund left-wing causes, if that makes sense. Get rid of the charitable deduction, or at least like Sniffy Joe, minimize the charitable deduction to 28%. I'd even make it worse, man. I'd say no more charitable deductions. You make the money, pay the tax on it, done. And then we'll see what Buffett and Gates and all these clowns do at their desks. We're giving half our assets away, knowing full well they're not going to have to pay estate taxes to get them to left-wing causes. And don't forget, Warren Buffett also likes population control as well. Mackenzie Scott, let's look for some of her things she donated to, shall we? Mackenzie Scott, mom, writer, advocate. Last year, I pledged to give the majority of my wealth back to the society that helped generate it, to do so thoughtfully, to get it started soon, and keep it until the safe is empty. There's no question in my mind that anyone's personal wealth is a product of a collective effort and of social structures which present opportunities to some people and obstacles to countless others. I watched with horror, she says, about the George Floyd stuff. Okay, so let's just keep watching. This is just, I'm embarrassed. What fills me with hope is a thought that what will come if each of us reflects on what we can offer. Opportunities that flow from the mere chance of skin color, sexual orientation, gender, zip code may have yielded resources that can be powerful levers for change. I began work to complete my pledge with the belief that my life had yielded two assets that could be of particular value to others: the money these systems help deliver to me, and the conviction that people who have experience with inequities are the ones best equipped to design solutions. All right, so here are the people I'm giving money to: gender equity, economic mobility, empathy and bridging divides. $586 million to racial equity, LGB whatever to 46 million, gender equity, functional democracy, whatever the hell that is, public health, global development. What do we think that is, man? That means population control. Climate change, of course, 125 million to climate change. So apparently she cares about climate change 3 times as much as she does about LGBT folks. On this list, 91% of the racial equity organizations are run by leaders of color. Again, if I was black, I'd be pissed off by that. I said leaders of color aren't black necessarily, and black people are not people of color, by the way. 100% of the LGBT ones are run by LGBT people. 83% are run by women. So if you're a white guy, you need not apply it. It's shocking, huh? Driven by deep belief that value different backgrounds bring to problem solving on an issue, we selected for the diversity and leadership across all categories. All right. Unless organization leadership requested otherwise, all commitments were paid up front and left unrestricted to provide them with maximum flexibility. I'm sure they are 11 light. Let's see. She talks about the glass wing is a tiny butterfly with invisible. Called them men. Here we go. Highlight more. Okay, so here are what she's talking about. An association women prevent or whatever. I don't care. You can see all this crazy stuff. I want to show you the comments though. Let's see if she has Family Independence Initiative. I guarantee that's be family planning. Let's see if she gives a Planned Parenthood. Hampton University, Howard University, Latino Justice, just NAACP. Why not give the Planned Parenthood, man? So that way we don't have to fund them, huh? All right, so let's see if she gives the Sierra Club. Probably not, because they're run by rich whites. Nope. ACLU, probably not, because rich whites. Let's see. ACLU in here? Nope. All right, so, but let's see some of the comments. It's actually quite embarrassing, some of the comments. As a black woman, mother of 3, small business owner, and Howard, I thank you, you have shown the world that Americans do believe. Way to take your name back. Solid. I'm very excited to watch how Mackenzie Scott changes the world the upcoming decades as a fellow funder. I mean, all these, thank you for account, but there's other people. One marginal, right here, disability. So here are people say one marginalized group is disabilities, and there's other people say, I just need some money from you, essentially. It's embarrassing. Anyway, let's make sure that when she gives that, that she pays, doesn't get a charitable deduction on this, man. It's nuts. They're all left-wing, far-left people with far-left causes who are trying to separate you from your freedom. So let's make sure she pays taxes to do that. I got no qualm with it. All right, we'll see you.